So I'm holding this paddle. During the winter time, we have a couple of staff that spend their time on the bandsaw on the router table. And they make these paddles. We have campers that come for all summer, all year, all summer. They keep coming back year after year, and we want to recognize that, because if you're recognized for doing something awesome, you're going to have a greater sense of ownership into what's going on. So once campers have come to camp for 26 weeks, a half year of their life has been spent at Camp Lincoln. They get one of these small paddles. It's a public presentation in front of their unit, and their name also goes up on a plaque in our pavilion. We do spring and fall outdoor ed, where school groups come and different community groups come, and it's always fun to peer around the corner, and always there is somebody reading the names on those lists. And when campers come with their school groups, they grab their friends and they drag them over. They're like, look, 2002, I got my 26 paddle. And they're totally excited to see their name. So on that large Adirondack chair are the names of our campers and staff that have spent 52 weeks of their life at Camp Lincoln. And if you want to see somebody's face light up, put their name on that chair and have them come with their school group and say, that's my name right there. They are so proud of that, and we make like regular size paddles, and we route them and paint them. And if you want to have some more information on this, I can share it with you. But we just buy 1-inch stock and cut them out, and it takes about 16 hours. I think they spent last winter, and we have a stockpile for the next 3 years. And it's simple and it's cheap, and you can use scraps. This guy, this is our 5-year award. The second summer I was at Lincoln, we really instituted this stuff. The recognition, the paddles, thanking people for coming back year after year. And sort of the 5-year award, if you only come to camp for maybe 1 or 2 sessions a summer, it's going to take you a long time to get to 26 and 52 weeks. So Chris was like, we have to recognize like our 5-year campers. So we came up with this triangle, the classic wide triangle with a 5 on it, and we were talking about how we were going to present this. That the paddles were presented publicly, the spirit paddles were presented publicly, and we needed something special. Well, there's this guy, Percy, who helped to form our camp back in 1926, and his granddaughter was on our senior staff that year, and we were talking about there needs to be a legend. There needs to be a legend of Percy. And I sort of threw a few things out, and we were getting ready to launch into a big meeting or something, and I said, Chris, give me 5 minutes. And I ran to my computer, and I pumped out this legend of Percy. Rhiannon and Brian, close your ears, because you haven't been here for 5 years yet. I'm letting you in on a secret. You only hear this story if you've been there for 5 years. Don't tell anybody I shared this with you. So, Percy was a farmer, and he's the one that owned the property. And when he first got there were all these large boulders all over the place. And he was able to move most of them with his horses. But there was this one boulder that was just stubborn, and he couldn't move it. And he decided that he was going to take this boulder on personally. That he and this boulder were going to wrestle, and he was going to put it where he wanted it, and it has a perfect flat spot right on top, and he wanted it down close to the waterfront, down this trail, so that he could sit there and he could reflect on camp, and he could have an opportunity to think about all the great things that were going on his property, and it took him 5 years. It took him 5 years to roll this rock to the place that it is now. And he used perseverance, and he was dedicated, and it took him a lot of like personal development in order to move this, because he had to convince himself, and he had to continue reminding himself that this was the right thing to do, and this is what he wanted, and that by the time this rock was moved, his sense of accomplishment was going to just be through the roof. And so now that you have been here for 5 years, we want to give you your 5-year paddle in memory of Percy. because you've shown dedication and perseverance, and you've lived by the values that Percy lived by. And it's awesome that you've been here for this long. The legend's like a paragraph, and it took me 5 minutes. And every year, well, every session on the last Thursday, you see this group of campers convene, and then they walk into the woods. And then about 20 minutes later, they come back grinning from ear to ear. When they walk into the woods, they are so anxious, and they're nervous, and they're like, am I in trouble? Like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. And they come out grinning ear to ear, and they are carrying their paddles around, and they go home and they put them on their wall, and this helps to tie them to Camp Lincoln. This is what helps to tie them to this awesome experience that we're creating. More traditions. I know that, Mike hiding there in the woods with a fern on his head. We have special activities every session, and we have some specials that are traditions, like the counselor hunt, like the CIT hunt, and we capitalize on those because we know that the campers and the staff all look forward to these things, and they can't wait until we do that special. We are very fortunate. We're on Kingston Lake. We see the part of Kingston Lake that we look at. There aren't any houses, and we have Adirondack chairs all over camp. And campers eat their lunch there. Oh, I'm jumping ahead. Sorry about that. Campers eat their lunch on the chairs, and staff sit on the chairs. And we have rental groups that come every year, and they talk about those Adirondack chairs. I don't know how many times I've printed off the plans for our Adirondack chairs because people come and they see that. One of the best things you can do, whether you're at an ACA conference or a Y conference, or if you're fortunate enough to be an ACA visitor, whenever you go to other camps, you should always be looking for ideas to steal. One of the things that we stole from here, I actually think it was Camp Sloper, was their fort building activity period. They said, yeah, it's great. We take a bunch of kids into the woods with some rope and sticks, and first we talk about tool safety, and then they build forts for a week. And then on Friday, they tear them down, and then they sign up again on Monday to make the same fort, only bigger and better. So we left here from the conference after hearing about this, and we're like, that is so easy. We're going to go to the local farm store. We're going to buy a package of baling twine, and for $20, we're going to be able to run this activity period all summer long. Now, fort building is a 2-week specialty camp. Parents pay extra to have their kids sign up to go into the woods with a roll of baling twine to make forts. Last year, they made this massive, I don't even know, maybe like the size of this room and the room next to it. They like lashed sticks together and made it in, I can't remember what they called it. It was like, walls of a fort, and they had a legit working catapult, and they had drawbridges, and they had secret entrances. They had a great time building it, and whenever I would go out there, they'd want to show me the new part that they built or how they had improved their catapult. I went out there on the last Friday of their program, and those kids were off the wall. They were having more fun tearing down their fort than they had actually building it. They were just running around, they were yelling and screaming. I thought somebody was being tortured because of the noises I was hearing. But they had fun. They had fun doing that. And it's more than constructing. It's more than taking it apart. It's the relationships that those kids have when you're together with somebody and you need to figure out how to lash together 2 sticks so they stay together. Or how to tie a knot so it actually stays. Or how are we going to make our catapult work? Our ropes course is really awesome. All of the high elements are set up with 2 belay cables. So you have a camper climb up either side, and then they get into the middle. And the most rewarding experience I've ever seen, I had 2 campers. The group had split themselves in half. And there was obviously the cool kids and the not so cool kids. And they were not talking to each other, but one at a time. They were going up their tree, they were crossing in the middle, and then they were coming down. They would complete the element, and then they would come down. And this boy and this girl came up, cool girl, not so cool guy, and they were like, "Oh, hey, what's going on? You know, I'm Jeremy." She said, "I am Megan," and then they climbed, and they got to the middle, and she was shaking so hard that the trees on either side, you could see the canopies like waving, and the rope was jiggling all the way down to the belayer, and she was absolutely petrified. And Jeremy walked over to her and helped her to breathe, to regain her composure, and they switched places. They turned around. It was on a very narrow Indiana Jones bridge, and they both completed the element. And the best part was when they got down onto the ground, they just started talking, and the two of them were inseparable for the rest of the session because they had that connection, because we allowed them that opportunity to make a connection. They're both now senior CITs, and they're going to be awesome counselors in 2 years. Traditions can start tomorrow. They don't have to be seated in any sort of history. You could go back tomorrow and be, you know, I think our new tradition is that everybody is going to wear their socks folded over their shoes. You get two staff members, two of the coolest staff members, to start doing that, and it's going to stick. Brian is trying to get me to order headbands for our store this year. Well, I know which 3 staff members are going to get headbands as soon as they come in, because once the campers see them wearing their headbands, everybody's going to want one. That is going to be the coolest thing this summer. Now I just have to convince my exec and we'll be all set.